So the Streisand effect, I'll give you the Wikipedia definition. Basically, is a phenomenon that occurs when an attempt to hide, remove, or censor information has the unintended consequences of increasing awareness of that info, blah, 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 blah. Basically, when you try to remain super inconspicuous, or whenever you want something to remain inconspicuous, it ends up actually doing the exact opposite, which is bringing it to way more attention and light than you had originally wanted it to. So it's actually kind of ironic because I've literally seen this happen in real time. And also there's the human cognition effect of where even if it may not be happening, your bias being in that moment at that time and over analyzing and overestimating this thing happening is just going to make you feel like it's way more sought after and being paid attention to anyway. So it's like even if it's not happening, it's still happening in your head, and since you're the one that's controlling how you feel, it basically makes no difference in the end. Isn't that weird?
It sure is something, but going back to the ignorance is bliss statement, I think this is actually a pretty good effect in suggesting that humans not necessarily are happier, but are naturally inclined to being not ignorant. So the Streisand effect is basically if you're trying to, in an attempt to try and hide something or make something not known, you end up bringing so much attention to yourself, which is the opposite. And I feel this shows that human beings, when someone's trying to stop a human from knowing about something, there seems to be an innate reaction that, wait, no, we want to know about this now. Show us the thing you're hiding. What are you hiding? What's behind that door? What documents are you shredding? What's going on in the background? And it's amazing because if that person wasn't trying to cover up whatever they're hiding, people would not have paid it any mind. People would just have gone about their day saying, oh, whatever, who cares? But it's the fact that they're trying to hide it and say, oh, there's nothing over here. Don't come look here. There's nothing to see here. As humans, we seem to really want to see what's behind that door. We want to go there and say, wait, no, show us what's behind the curtain. I'm curious now. Don't leave me hanging. And I feel like that's a pretty good, not reference, but it's a pretty good showcase that humans, once we know something, we want to keep knowing. We don't want to stay ignorant anymore. So there's our second jab at the ignorance is bliss statement.
Interesting. I really wonder. I have never done any research into this, and I'm curious to know one day if I can at least visualize. Because, when you research all human psychology, behavioral, cognitive, all of it, and you see this stuff happening in real time, it makes a lot more sense than if you're just reading it out of a textbook, right?
Of
Like
course.
I'm the type of person that always likes to learn through some kind of visualization or analogy instead of just looking at the super technical workings of how something works. It's how I learn basically everything. I try to make analogies for them in real time, in real life. So when I try to imagine something like this, I wonder why it occurs the way it does. Why are human beings so curious? Like, it's a known fact that we are curious beyond belief and that we want to constantly ingest some type of information so that we can grow ourselves in some way. At least 99% of the population is like that.
Yeah,
So,
to a certain extent.
yeah, but why? Is there some kind of survival mechanism that requires us to be acting this way? Is there an innate drive besides the need to survive that makes us do this? Is there some kind of incentive that's created as a result of the societal norms that have perpetuated themselves around us? I'm curious, really.
Maybe you could argue that curiosity is just the evolution of adaptability. We are capable of adapting in any situation because we don't remain stagnant. If like, let's say you're freezing, you could just sit there and do nothing and with like a loincloth on as a caveman and do nothing, or you could hunt an animal, skin it alive and put it over yourself or something. And these are two different situations. You could just sit there and do what you've always been doing and staying there freezing, or you can try something else. And maybe because we're still alive today, humans have just spent millions of years honing this adaptability trait to the point that now even though survival for the at least for first world countries, survival is not particularly difficult, but we still retain our ancient ancestors' traits of adaptability in the form of creativity.
Wow, that was perfectly articulated. I honestly didn't ever think of it like that, but it makes complete sense.
At least that I think, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a archaeologist or whatever.
I mean, that's what something I would really love to ask just a either practicing cognitive psychologist or biologist studying evolution or
I mean, it
evolution
makes
theory.
sense to me because I look at some animals that went extinct, my favorite being the megalodon shark, and because it's so much bigger and deadlier than the great white shark, which is usually the shark that people are the most afraid of. But how can a creature so big go extinct? And I realized well, not realized. I read somewhere that the megalodon shark went extinct because it had no way internally to regulate its heat. It couldn't warm itself up, so it most likely literally froze to death in the water. Whereas the great white shark, even though it's significantly smaller than the megalodon, it actually can regulate its internal heat, so it can swim in the cold water or it can cool itself when it's in the warm water. And obviously this is not, at least I'm not in the brain of a shark, but I'm assuming this is not something they're thinking about actively. I'm going to heat up, I'm going to cool down. I think this is just a biological adaptation, a mutation of the shark's DNA that allowed for the great white to exist versus the megalodon. But it's this kind of adaptability traits that animals need to have such that they will survive, because if you don't have the ability to adapt to your circumstances, you die, you go extinct. There's nothing, you can't do anything anymore.
Wow. By the way, while you were giving that whole explanation, which first of all makes complete sense, I fact checked you, and you were completely on point. I mean, like you hit it on the head. It is literally an adaptability trait that we have. It's
Sweet.
the act of seeking more information. Yeah, I don't know. You just kind of pulled that one out of your ass, and you got it right.
Lucky guess, put me on Jeopardy.